where in-person, face-to-face interaction is becoming more and more scarce, and escapism is becoming more and more popular, I think gamers looking for the next big MMO have a few reasons they really want Ashes to succeed. And in the next couple of videos, we're going to talk about what it can take for an MMO to truly succeed in this culture and in this world where people are really looking for a game, not just for the game's escapism, that's part of it, but we're looking for community, we're looking for challenge, and we're looking, to be entertained. And so I'm going to be making a few videos, 3 in fact, discussing each aspect of that, the community, the challenge, and the escapism, and how I think Ashes is responding to those needs to make a great MMO. And so this first video, we're going to be talking about community. What is Ashes doing in general, and what have other MMOs done to build community within their games? And so the first part about community we're going to be talking about the guild system. And I'll talk a little bit, and I'll touch a little bit about how to pick a guild as well. We're also going to be talking about the economic systems in game, dungeon/raid finders, the node system specifically, as that is a huge part about how Ashes is going to be creating community. And then the last topic we're going to touch on is PvP, or also the fact that some people just like to be trolls, and that is part of community as well, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. So let's start off talking about the guild system. What is it that makes a community better or worse with guilds? And so I really think there are kind of two different types of guilds. There is your under 100 guilds and your over 100 people guilds. Not characters, but people. When you're under 100 people, that's still a lot of people, but it's easier to find, and it's easier to get to know everybody. Once you start getting over that 100 mark, people just kind of fade into the background. You don't really know who's there, and quite often, the people who kind of fall out of the game just get missed. And you know what? You can leave a game for whatever reason you want, that's fine. But as a guild, it's good to have that community, and I think that it's hard to have a really good community when you start going over the 100 people mark. Now, it is possible if it's done right, but it's very hard to do right. And so, what is the purpose of guilds? Obviously, guilds allow you, in most games, to have a set group of people that you are going to go and clear content with. But that's not the only thing that guilds can offer for people, in certain games. It can act as another trade chat for people. Not the greatest use of a guild, but it can. In Ashes specifically, your guild is going to also be wherever your home node is, I would presume, wherever you're a citizen of. And so they help you in that node. Guilds can also be useful for helping you get gear, helping you level up, giving you information, and just making you an overall better player. And so it is important to find the right guild, because there's also bad guilds, and generally, not always, generally those are guilds over 100 people. Because you fade away, or because there's so many people in that guild can get a bad name because of bad faith actors who interact with other people. I know when I was playing WoW Classic back when it re-released, and there was one guild on our server, and everybody knew who that guild was, and nobody wanted to play from anybody with that guild because they had so many bad faith actors who were just, not really people you wanted to clear content with. And it, again, not always, but it often comes from larger guilds. And there is a difference from larger guilds and guild clusters, is what I like to call them, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if you're looking for a guild, I suggest looking for one that has under 100 people. It takes about 40 people to clear content, so look for something that is either they are recruiting people to hit the 40 to 50 mark, or is under 100 is my suggestion. But you know, maybe you have a lot of friends and you need a bigger guild. That's fine. The one thing to be aware of in Ashes, guilds level up, and so when your guild levels up, you don't get set perks. You get to pick your perks, and one of those perks is expanding the roster. And so I really like that, because that really is going to cut down on the massive guilds, because the maximum guild size right now in Ashes of Creation, from what I was reading online, is 300 people. But that is if every single level up you choose to expand your guild. And so that, I think, is really good. I think Ashes is really trying to minimize the massive guilds and go more for guild clusters. So you have, let's say, a guild of 50 people who are clearing content, and they are in the same node, or an allied node with them is another guild of 50 people, and those two guilds make an alliance. And then maybe there's a third guild and so those guilds, they have their tight-knit groups, but then they're also willing to work together, even though they don't know everybody from the other guild. And I really think that is a good thing. And if you're in a guild that is looking to be an active part of a guild cluster, I think that's a really good thing to be a part of, because it just allows you to defend stuff more. If you're moving a caravan from one place to another, you can always be like, hey guys, our guild is doing this, can you guys come and help us? And it's just a really good way to build a solid community where you don't necessarily know everybody in that community, but you say, oh hey, there's that guild tag, I know that guild, they're in the same cluster as us. So that's one thing. You know, looking for a guild, look for somebody that's around, you know, that 40 to under 100 mark. And if you're a guild leader, think about trying to build a guild cluster with other guilds in your either node or in the nodes around you. And I think that's really important. And so, like, obviously some other things you need to think about when you're picking a guild is your, like, when you're going to be able to raid, your time zone and all of that. How intense are they going to be clearing content? Are they going to be doing raids every night, once a week, twice a week, and will you be able to make those? Because if you're not able to make, you know, the content that you want to clear with the guild, then you might need to be like, hey guys, I need to find a different guild. And that's okay. I think people understand that. And so guilds are a huge reason why or a huge reason how you build community. And so be very aware of that. It's very important. And like, I understand there are going to be people who are solo players who want to play the game, and I really suggest getting into a half decent guild. It doesn't need to be a hardcore guild. Maybe they raid once a week, maybe they raid once every other week. That's okay. If you are a solo player, you know, maybe you don't overly like to interact with people, and that's fine. But I remember some of my funnest times playing Star Wars The Old Republic was when I was in a guild, even though I had been a solo player in that game for a really long time. We had a lot of fun, and I'm actually going to be sharing a story from when I was playing that later on in this video. So that's just a few things to think about as you're looking at guilds, and you know how I think Ashes is doing a really good thing in that when you level up a guild, you have to choose your perks. You don't just get the same perks as everybody else. And so different guilds will have different maximum limits and stuff like that. Next, we're going to talk about the economic system. So a lot of games have auction houses where you can trade across, whether it's faction. So Ashes doesn't really have a server-wide auction house. If an economic node gets high enough, then they will have an auction house that people can come to and use. But other than that, it's going to be a lot of trade chat and stuff like that, and I really like that. It's going to make stuff harder to sell, but it also is going to make people actually talk to each other and, you know, run prices. I believe they also, and I could be very wrong on this, I need to double check, but I believe you can, like, own a shop and sell stuff through the shop. I could be wrong on that though, so don't take my word on that right now. But yeah, so the whole fact that there is no server-wide auction house, I actually think is great. I think it's going to build community. I think it's going to do a lot of things for the game. And then once you get that one economic node to level 6 or whatever, and everybody is coming in, it's going to make that a huge hub for economic transactions. There's going to be a lot of people coming in from all over the world, which I just think is a really awesome idea. Where it's, you know, you might see enemy people coming in and maybe you want a PvP or whatever, or maybe you want to bring your caravan to this area so that you can sell stuff. And that, I think, is an awesome idea, how they're doing that. Other than that, you know, there's not much to know about the economic system. Well, that's not true. The fact that you have to take your caravan from one area to another to sell stuff for a higher price, to sell your wolf pelts that you're farming up in the mountains to the desert. That, again, is going to create community, because now you need to find people to help you transport that. There's going to be people who are trying to attack you along the way, and that's building their community up. And so just every way that they've shaped this, and again, that's going kind of into the node system, but every way they've shaped this is to build community in my mind. And I think it's going to do well. I could be wrong, but I'm very excited to see as the game develops more and we get further into alpha testing and beta testing to see how it develops more and get to see how communities really can form and grow in this game. Next, this is something that Ashes doesn't have, but a lot of other games do, is the dungeon/raid finder. I think not having this, there are pros and cons to having/not having this. And so having a raid finder makes it a lot easier for solo players. Or having a dungeon finder makes it a lot easier for solo players to get into dungeon. It just becomes a lot easier to get into content when you're a solo player. And so I think dungeon/raid finder is really great for solo players. But I think that one of the bad things about the dungeon and the raid finder is it can kill guilds that are clearing content. Now, if people are really hardcore, they're not going to use a dungeon or a raid finder to be clearing content. That's just, they're not going to be doing it. So those sorts of guilds will. But what about the people who aren't as intense and only want to do a raid once every 2 weeks? That guild no longer exists because of dungeon and raid finders. But because Ashes doesn't have that, you're going to have guilds that aren't as intense, which will be good for solo players to come in, get their feet wet in the content, and be clearing it. And how they're doing raids, in that when you fight the first boss, depending on how good you do against that first boss of the raid, the next boss will be easier or harder, and the loot you get will vary with that. Is great for those guys who are not clearing the top content. It allows everybody to clear the content, but not get the same rewards, because you're basing it off of how good you do. And I think that's a great idea. I hate participation trophies, which, I mean, to some extent, I guess this would be a participation trophy, but it's rewarding the people who put the time in. And I think that's huge in building a community, because you will have those players who go and farm, you know, raids 2-3 times a week, and they're getting gear, and that's okay. And then they have friends maybe who can't do stuff as much, so now they can come back and help their friends. Maybe they aren't getting the drops they want because now it's, you know, you're not pushing the raid content as much, so you're getting easier bosses, but you're helping your friends out. And so I like that idea. I think that the fact that they don't have a dungeon or a raid finder is really going to help the community grow better. I don't think it'll be worse. I think that, honestly, dungeon and raid finders can kill a community. And so I'm really happy that they're not in. And I remember back in the day when they first got introduced and stuff like that, man, it was so nice, because I was, for the most part, a solo player, maybe had a couple friends who played, and it was really nice to be able to get in content. But as I've grown up and as I see the need for community in these games, I think that it is actually more of a hindrance to a game to have a dungeon and a raid finder than it is a help. And yeah, that might gatekeep some people who are solo players. And that sucks because this game looks awesome. It feels awesome to play right now. And I'm really excited for the full release. And solo players might get in and be like, well, I'm having a really hard time getting a group for content. And if you're a solo player, again, find a guild to be a part of, a small guild that's willing to help you out, that you can clear content with. I really encourage that. I think it's a great thing. I think it will just be all around good for you to do. Next, let's talk about the node system for a minute. I think most people who are watching this video probably understand what the node system is. But I think this is going to be the greatest factor of the game. I think most people think this is the greatest factor of whether this game will be great, mediocre, or bad, is how well the node system actually performs. And I think the one thing that is great about the node system that it just does passively, because there's a lot of things that it does actively, but passively, it is a system built to build community. Because you're going to have nodes that are allying with other nodes, you're going to have nodes that are going to war, and all of these things will build community. Because as you have a node being attacked and you have guilds coming in and building alliances and making friendships, that is going to build community, and I think that is going to be, well, if this game becomes the next biggest MMO, it's going to be because of the node system, and it's going to be because of how it builds community and how it offers challenges in the form of PvP. But we're not talking about challenges today, so that'll be the next video. So I'm really excited about the node system, but we really have to see more of it, because even in the little bit I've been able to play of the alpha, I haven't been able to really see the node system shine, and so until we get a little bit further along, we won't really know. But I think this, and I think most people understand this, that system is what makes or breaks this game. And so I'm really excited for it. I want to make more in-depth videos about it as we find out more about it. But for right now, because I haven't really gotten a great idea about how it's going to look fully from actually playing the game, because you can go and read the wiki and stuff, and that's one thing, but then there's experiencing it. And so until I truly feel like I've experienced the node system for what it is, I probably won't make a video about it. And so the last thing today that we're going to talk about is PvP, or as I like to say, some people like to be trolls. And so PvP is huge for creating community, because quite often you will have a game where somebody's coming and, you know, farming you or whatever, and you need to be like, hey guys, this person keeps killing me, they're being a troll, can somebody come help? And then you can build friendships through that. Or some people just like to be trolls and like to be trolls together, and you know, that can build friendships as people are being trolls. And yeah, it might suck if you're being trolled, but I really like how Ashes is going about it, where if you're being trolled and you decide not to fight back, if somebody keeps killing you over and over again, you decide not to fight back, they become a red player, and now they can be hunted by bounty hunters. And so I really like that balance. So the Star Wars The Old Republic story that I've got is one Friday night. It was a double experience weekend. I was a level 55 Sith Juggernaut, and this was back before they changed it so that you get de-leveled for a zone, and it was right after the Hutt Cartel expansion came out, so it was new level 55. And so if you've never played it before, you fly to planets, you do quests through that planets for your own personal story and for the planet storyline. And so when you land on the planet, if you're a Sith, you land on one side of the planet. If you're Republic, you land on the other side. And so me and two other guys who were Sith landed on the planet. We're all level 55. We go over to the other side, the Republic side of the planet, where people land. And they hadn't foreseen this, I don't know how, but they didn't level up the NPCs in that area. So if you were level 55, they wouldn't attack you. So we literally sat in their spaceport killing people for like 2 hours. Now, yes, that was very trolly. We had fun, and I know it sucks for the people being trolled. And that can get people out of playing the game if they continually are being trolled by that. But what Ashes has done to counter that is, oh, you're a level 50 killing level 30s? Well, you're going to become a red player, and now other level 50s are going to hunt you. And so I'm really excited because it allows for people to be trolls, but there is a punishment for being a troll. And I think that is an amazing idea. I think that is a great idea. I really hope it works well. Because it allows for people to play the way they want to play. And it rewards you because you can take whatever the person's farming, but it also can hinder you if you are the troll, which is a great idea. And so that's it for today's video. Next time we're going to be talking about how Ashes is going to be offering challenges to players and meeting that kind of specific requirement. Links down below for my Discord channel, my Twitch, and for the music and the image that's up. Just so you know, if you do want to come and join me on Twitch, I probably won't be streaming a lot until Ashes comes out, just because of my work schedule. But once Ashes comes out, I'm going to be streaming it as much as I can, and there will be more information as we get closer to that, what times I'll be streaming at. It just really depends on how my work schedule looks, because I might be switching shifts again. But I hope you have a great day, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will get to it. And yeah, peace out, everyone. Have a good day and a great week.